content. So I've got the honour of starting off with this. This is where I live. It's Applewood Permaculture Centre in North Herefordshire, which is very close to the Welsh border, in what we call the Marches yeah, actually it's in England. And the next one, so this is where I am in England. This is where I live in Nepal, and I've been in Nepal also for since 1985, so almost 40 years. In February, it will be 40 years, in fact. And the next one, so and this is, yeah, this is my office in Nepal where I work. So I've got one office in Herefordshire and one office in the mountains of Nepal. And I kind of, yeah, divide my time, sometimes physically, most of the time mentally, between the two. So that's me.
Thomas.
Yeah, so I've been involved with permaculture since 1995. I've been like since then been involved in a number of cooperative living and working projects. The one you're seeing there on the picture is where I live at the moment. I've been for the last 15 years. From housing cooperative that's just over the hill from Chris and Louis, actually. I've have done a lot of work in urban permaculture, working with urban communities and neighborhoods, and also been involved in regional reforestation efforts in the north of England. We planted like well over 500,000 trees over 25 years. And yeah, and in between for 6 years, I was a permaculture nomad. So me and my partner traveled on bikes through Britain and parts of Europe, joining in with many other projects. And forest gardens are my passion. And yeah, the book Forest Gardening in Practice, that's kind of the outcome of like years of research. And Barbara, over to you.
Yeah, thanks. Yes, so 20 years ago, I lived in the city center of Leiden in the Netherlands, and I grew food on a small patio of 6 square meters, but I grew it 3D. So yeah, it actually grew quite some of our own food. And I did guerrilla gardening, and that's this picture here with my son, who was really small at that time. And I had a website about food foraging. The name was Wildplukker for the Dutch delegation here. And yeah, then someone told me about permaculture, and for me, that idea was but mind blowing. Really nice idea to work with nature, and the PDC, the permaculture design course that I did, was really life changing. And now I live on 12 hectares of land in Croatia, where I brought my book theoretic knowledge into practice on these 12 hectares. And yeah, I live on a homestead called Boveta Shuma. Yeah, this is our landscape. And here you see a part of my garden. We also have yeah, it's a big polyculture garden. We have food forests and a food savanna and animals working for us, and a polyculture nut orchards and campsites. And yeah, I just finished my permaculture diploma, the 10 designs thing. So yeah, that's me. So yeah, back to Chris.
So, well, actually, it's back to you because we're going to look at what draws you to permaculture. So that's back to, sorry, that's back to Barbara, isn't it? Trying to.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, is this what are we doing the sit spot?
Yeah, you see, we need to improvise every now and then. We're flexible. Yeah, I think it's time for the sit spot. Yeah.
Okay. So this is where we get a chance to just breathe. And what we'll find out about is that permaculture is very closely connected to nature, and care of nature is really, key to that. And so just to take a couple of minutes, and I'm going to share a an audio with a picture, yeah. So invite you just to close your eyes and imagine that you're in a beautiful forest somewhere.
Yeah, it's always nice to get some breathing space. So, yeah, now that we told you about us, we know. Sorry, I need to find the whiteboard. We want to play a bit with you, make it a bit more interactive, and um, ask you what draws you to permaculture. So, what is it that attracts you in permaculture? Here on the left side, you can get yourself a sticky note. So, click on this sticky note icon, and then you press it and you glue it somewhere and type in what draws you to permaculture.
You could have that bird song on at the same time as well. Could we do that? I don't know if people can need to share it, wouldn't they? I haven't quite got the technical stuff sorted out, have we, to be able to do that?
Yeah, so a lot about connection there, a lot about nature. That's yeah, helping nature. Yeah, great.
Mm.
Yeah, nature connection and living in balance, living more sustainable.
If you struggle with the whiteboard, then also feel free to use the chat to uh, have your input. You know, we can keep an eye on the chat at the same time if that's easier for you.
Yeah, multiple ways of achieving the goal.
I like the necessity to take responsibility, desire to be change. Yeah. So it's both needs and wants.
Yeah, I like the optimism because it's also, yeah, so solution based. Okay, well, yeah, in the chat, someone adds nature connection, responsibility, holistic approach, wide eye view, thinking about the future generations, and get connection to my piece of land. And someone else says connection to self, land, and the other. And Therese says, I love how interconnected it makes me feel with the more than human world. Yeah, that is interesting. Yeah. Sine says sustainability, living in harmony with nature.
Interesting how often the word connection comes up. It really seems to be key.
Yeah.
So there's still people, I'm not sure if they're new people or if they've fallen out and come back in again, but there are still people turning up, which is great. Welcome. So we're just writing down and posting what draws us to permaculture, or what has drawn us, or what is drawing us to permaculture. Maybe you're new, just come across permaculture. Maybe you've been connected for a while. There's a whole range in between.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Anthony says playfulness, and Leslie says imaginative solutions. Yeah. Should we move on to the definitions of
Great. So
permaculture that
if
we
people,
found?
yeah, we can. And if people still want to add to this, they can add it in the chat as well. It'll all be recorded in some way or another. So let's move on.
Yeah.
Do you want to share that then, Barbara?
Yes.
Okay. So
Hang
I think
on.
now we're going to look at going deeper into what is permaculture.
Yeah. Uh, to find, yeah, there we go.
So we're looking at what is permaculture. So these are the two people, if we can get that on full screen, maybe, that are the responsible people for starting it up. Bill Mollison and David Holmgren. So you can see what they've written about it there. I'm not going to speak it because it's already written there. I just wanted to point out two of the early videos, in fact, that were made about permaculture: the engraved data of falling food and Global Gardener. They're well worth, and they're you can get them on YouTube now. They're well worth looking up. Barbara, will that go on full screen?
No, it's not yet. I don't know why it doesn't work, but maybe the next slide.
Okay, so one of my favorite, if we move on, then one of my favorites.
Yes.
It's still not full screen, but it's
No,
okay.
yeah,
We can
sorry.
read it. So I like this definition, which is from Lee Harrison on the course when I did my permaculture design course in New Zealand with Steve Hart, who is on the team here. Wow, how about that? 1989 in January. And there were 63 of us. Steve was another one of them. And Lee Harrison was the co-tutor with Bill Mollison, and this was her definition. So it's got the key kind of building blocks, if you like. It's about ecology, it's about design, and conscious design, and the output is sustainable or regenerative human settlements. And I know we can go a lot deeper into, well, what is sustainable, what is regenerative, but that's, yeah, one of my favorite definitions, which is, yeah, you can talk about different parts of it in different ways. The next one is a bit more basic. So it's about a revolution that's dressed up as gardening. So people think it's all about gardening, but in fact, it's much more. It's how we can reorganize our lives to live, yeah, safely and uh, 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 harmoniously on the planet, basically. So those are two of my favorites. And if you move on, Barbara, there's others as well, which you can speak to yourself or Thomas.
Yeah, this is one I liked when I first heard it. It's by American permaculturist, and yeah, basically she makes that point of clever design, so co-creating landscapes with other creatures, and it's there's a benefit for us in there, but of course also there has to be the benefit for the other creatures as well. Next. And this is one that uh, I like for different reasons. So Raftus S. Ferguson, he's one of the permaculture academics. So his website, Liberation Ecology, is very well worth looking at for just like he's trying to like help gather the evidence permaculture works. And I like the point that he makes that it's a multifaceted thing, so as a worldview out of which the design system arises and which informs the practice and builds the movement, so it's like different facets of what permaculture is and how permaculturists see themselves as well. Okay, next.
One of yours, Thomas?
And this is kind of what I've come to see myself. I mean, I've got an hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, my background way back was in engineering, and so I can see how engineering, like physics, is about natural laws. Engineering is how we apply it in the world, and that can for better or worse. Permaculture tries to do the same thing in the living world. The big difference being that permaculture has an ethical underpinning. So we consciously think about why we're doing things and not just doing things because we can. Thanks.
Great.
Over
So
to you, Barbara.
that moves us on to the building blocks. So a bit more going deeper into what is permaculture, bit by bit. And so next one, please, Barbara. So here we go. That's the one with the ethics. So moving on seamlessly from what Thomas was saying, there should be some text on that actually. Where is it?
Yes, that might have got lost. Sorry, we're you can see we're permaculture people with we like to have our hands in the soil and not our hands on the keyboard of
On the
a
keyboard,
computer.
that's right.
So sorry.
You want me to try sharing it?
Yeah, you could. Yeah.
Okay, so if you unshare
Yes.
and then of course now I have to find the right one. So can you see that one? So now we'll go back. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
So, of course, I hadn't got it opened in the same place, but here we go. So the building blocks, that's the one. The ethics, so Thomas mentioned already, and it really is the foundation. It's what sets apart permaculture from a lot of different other movements or even academic, agroecology, regenerative agriculture. It has a very strong and named ethical basis. So, oops, sorry, I clicked on that. So earth care, people care, fair share, which basically covers everything. And as long as we can stick within those ethics, and we can do anything really. And what we'll see is that you can apply permaculture in any sphere of life, not just to gardening. But it's based very much on on ecological principles. So think of a woodland or think of a forest and how that's sustainable itself. Doesn't need people, doesn't need inputs other than the sun and the rain, and what is available to it. And we can copy that. This is actually a forest garden not far from us in Shropshire, and it looks like a woodland, but it's all planted. It was bare land many years before this. So we're copying, taking those natural principles and emulating them or applying them in human systems. This also looks like a woodland, but it's taken at 2 inches above the soil level inside a polyculture vegetable system. So it's got all the characteristics of a natural system in terms of its diversity and its different layers and the relationships between different parts of the system. So in this case, it's plants and soil and insects and fungi in the soil as well. And everything is connected to create this vibrant system. But it's created by people. So we are applying the ecological principles, and we do that through design. It's not just anything anywhere. So design is really the second pillar of permaculture, if you like. So we can decide where to put things, and so the design process can be distilled down into quite basic steps. So it's about looking where we are, and understanding our context, and then having a clear vision of where we want to get to, and then taking the steps to get there. And again, there are ways of doing that, processes, frameworks, and tools that we use to do that. So using those two things together, in terms of natural capital and ecological processes, we can harvest natural energy that is basically free. This is in the Colorado, the Rocky Mountains, 9,000 feet, 3-month, 4-month growing season, but using sun's energy to not only grow plants, but also heat the house, and integrating different systems together. So same place in the Rocky Mountains. This is Jerome at the Rocky Mountain Permaculture Institute. The mounding up of the compost against the back of the polytunnel heat house to exchange heat, and at the same time growing salads, many of which are volunteers that he then bags up and sells in a local town or city in Boulder, Colorado. And I stick with his system because it's so it's so educational. So locating elements in relative to each other. So here you've got a chicken coop, using gravity as well. So weeds are thrown into this system from the top, vegetable waste from the gardens. The chickens scrape it, eat the seeds, eat the pests, and it falls down to the bottom. And at the bottom, you've got this lovely thick layer of de-weeded, de-pested insect, and composted mulch that is then chucked out of the gate here using gravity as well into barrows and onto the land. So it's using those natural energies to assist the work, in this case. So place and culture and the characteristics of the place decides how the design or what the design is, but the designs follow similar patterns in terms of underlying ethics, using the ecological principles, and following a process of applying. So observing, it's very observation rich. In fact, I like to say that permaculture is 75% observation and 25% decision making. So you can say, okay, well, that's permaculture. That's another definition of permaculture. So we, spend a lot of time observing what the context is, and our role is to then, yeah, make the use of the resources available in time and space. So I think again, summing up what is permaculture, the ethics are at the core. The principles of ecology and design are then come from that. And then we have techniques, and that might be about composting or decision making, group consensus building. It might be agroforestry or regenerative agriculture, biofertilizers. They all come as techniques that we can use. And ultimately, we need to get on with it. So that's looking at that. That's another kind of way of summing up what permaculture is. So I'm going to stop sharing there, I think, and we go back to Thomas, who's going to talk more about nature.
Yeah, well, I'm not. I'm going to start by not talking actually. So what I would like us to do right now, just each one of you, just take 7 breaths and really feel those breaths. Thank you. Great. So what we've got here is a really lovely point of connection, actually. That's the point I'm wanting to make with breathing. I mean, we all do it all the time, many times a minute, a day, and it's one of those things we take for granted. But actually, of course, it's fulfilling one of our fundamental needs. We wouldn't have anything to breathe if there weren't plants out there producing that oxygen for us that we are provided with for free. That is nature's abundance that we're making use of. And so that's what we do as animals. But it's worth remembering we are nature, we are animals. We do many things that other animals do as well. And one of the things we are doing is breathing out carbon dioxide. So we are also providing for those plants. And so one thing you can do, anytime you like, is just each time like when you breathe in, just give a little bit of gratitude to those plants. And as you breathe out, just think of that as an act of generosity, because nature is endlessly generous, and we can lean into that, into both the gratitude and the generosity. By cultivating these attitudes, we can be aware of our part in nature and come away from that assumption that we're outside and that we're doing things to nature. And so that integrating ourselves is a key part, a key attitude of permaculture. And that is very much expressed in the ethics that we've already mentioned. And that idea of integration, of like making ourselves part of wider systems, that is really where the design comes in. So this design is all about integrating ourselves into natural cycles wherever we are and whoever is nature around us, whatever the ecology is, but also whoever else, whatever people are around us, so they are part of the ecology as much as ourselves as well. And out of that integration then can spring constructive and positive action. And so the action can go in many different directions. And David Holmgren, he produced a lovely picture for that summarizes that quite neatly. Barbara, could you bring that up? I'm afraid I have to leave my camera off because I'm living out in the sticks and the bandwidth is quite poor here. So this is what's known as the permaculture flower, or the domains of permaculture. So you see this ethics and design principles in the middle, and then it spirals out from there into action in those 7 different petals or domains of which really encompass anything that humans do with themselves and each other in this world. So just to give very brief examples for each of these domains. So land and nature stewardship. My passion is growing fruit and sharing that with others. I mean, some of you might have an allotment, a small garden, or even just a balcony to grow a few plants on. You might go out tree planting a few times a year, and all of those are great ways of connecting with nature and caring for it actively. Building, like ecological building, and there's all sorts of lovely, wonderful techniques out there, but a lot of us actually will not necessarily be in a position to build new. So refurbishing, retrofitting existing buildings can actually be a really great way of using existing infrastructure better. And sometimes it might just be that shed on your allotment, your garden shed made out of recycled materials. That might be your building project. Land tenure and community governance. I mean, that sounds a bit abstract to some of us maybe, but as an example, I'm part of a community orchard in my local town. And so we've got a group that manages that orchard together, or there may be community land trusts, housing cooperatives, and so on. And like the key principle there is really self-organization, people coming together and looking after resources together with each other. Education and culture, I'm in a position to be teaching permaculture and forest gardening, but you might share videos about your activities, what you're doing, what you're passionate about, or podcasts and so on. And I mean, that links to tools and technology, which can be technology for communication, or can be tools for sustainable living, like ecological heating or building compost loos, all manner of things. In the health and spiritual well-being, so I've seen some great examples of people creating personal health or fitness plans that were using nature to build up physical and mental health. And one aspect of design that always is worth considering is making it accessible, because not everybody has the same needs in terms of access, and really thinking about that in the way we create the spaces around us can help to include more people in the activities that are going on. And finally, finance and economics, that's sometimes is the one where we freeze and kind of get panicky a bit, but a very straightforward step for many people can be just thinking about, where am I banking? So where do I invest my money? That will be working day and night on something. So are there ethical banks or ethical investment opportunities where I can actually get my savings or my money to work for the things that I want, where people buying food together and sharing it amongst each other. So many different possibilities in many different directions. What uh, we'd like you to do next is just like think a little bit about those questions there on the side. Yeah, where are you? Where are you now? What are your starting points? There may be things you're already doing. There may be things that are already going on in your life or around you that you can connect with. So, and yeah, share that, but also think about what is your passion. So, what would you really like to get into and develop into? So, those two questions: what is your starting point? What is your passion? And Barbara, are we sharing a whiteboard, or are we just putting it in the chat?
In the chat, yes, I have put the two questions in the
Barbara?
chat. I've put the two questions in the chat, and
Great. Yeah, so
you can share your answers in the chat as well.
so just type into that. So maybe let's share the flower picture to so you know what you're looking at. Don't know if people understood the question, so do use the chat to think about how to share within any of those domains of permaculture. What are you already up to, and what would you like to like develop? Which area? Mhm. Okay, so one thing we have prepared is some examples that are like speaking to some of those domains, and where you can see how permaculture can be applied on different scales, in different settings, in different areas of life. Awesome. Permaculture wastewater systems. Yeah, that's something that we've got on our land, which is a great thing, actually. Yeah. Mhm.
So it also illustrates how they can cross over. So it's kind of a technology in a way, wastewater management, but it's also on the land. So it's part of the land and nature stewardship as well. So there are ways in which these different petals can be integrated together as well.
Yeah. And yeah, sharing knowledge, connecting with people. I mean, that's in some ways that is one of the most important and most useful things we can do, like sharing, yeah, our passion and our knowledge, and with the people around us, learning from and with each other. Mm. Food forests, yeah, love them.
Community space for children. Yeah, and I like this thread of working with children as well, because they are the future after all.
Yeah. Oh, I love that 6th-generation homestead. Wow. So yeah, I hope your business comes off. Yeah. Mhm. Great. Thanks. There's some great things in there. And yeah, do keep them coming. And yeah, the chats can be shared afterwards. Um, Barbara, is it time to show some of the examples that
I think so,
Yes.
yeah. We can move on to the case studies
are
as well.
there?
And those comments can
Yeah.
keep coming in, so you can keep writing
Yeah.
what your passion is or what your starting point is.
Yeah, as you see some of the examples, you might think, "Oh, yeah, that's something I know is going on," or something leads me to something that I want to get involved with. So this is um, an example that yeah, this is the place where I live at the moment. So this is rural housing cooperative. So there's 10 adults and 4 children at the moment sharing the place. And we're actually recruiting for 2 new members at the moment, if you know anybody. And so we've got 3 buildings, 7 acres of land. And as you can imagine, with this number of people and that infrastructure, there are a lot of decisions to make together. And so for us, that is a big part of yeah, what we are about really. It's like shared decision making, and we all pay rent, so we're raising the money to keep the place going, and we all together decide how it's spent. And a lot of the things that I'm spending on is the eco renovation of the place. So on the left here uh, um, in the lower pictures in the lower row, you see our wetland ecosystem treatment. So that is a pond system that treats all the wastewater from all the buildings on our site and grows willow, which we've just been harvesting and we're selling to local basket makers and living sculpture makers. So it's a great, very productive way of using like what otherwise might be waste that has to be treated at great expense. And on the right, there you see like the installation of our district heating system. So all 3 buildings are heated by the same boiler with wood that we're getting from local suppliers or cutting on our own land. And so there's quite a few of the aspects there in terms of tools, technology and building going on, and also the community governance and the finance and economics are important aspects of like what we're doing in our land and buildings. Next picture, Barbara. Yes, so and so this is a project I've worked with quite a few times over the years. That's an urban park in the middle of Manchester, and there, uh, as you can see, there's like a tree. There was a tree planting project of people locally living there, and the idea was like to create a forest garden that people anybody could access and that would not be fenced off, that is just a public resource. And on the left-hand side, that was one of the early planting sessions that we did. So when the first trees went in, and on the right-hand side, you see 10 years later, where the food forest is a reality and is populated by people appreciating it. So again, so there like land and nature stewardship is is obviously very much at the heart of it, but the whole process of the group uh, coming together, uh, developing the ideas, uh, raising volunteer energy, bringing volunteers together and keeping it going. There's a lot of community governance going on there. And it's a place for education and culture. All sorts of workshops and parties and weddings and so on have happened in that space. And not to forget that it's also a real great outdoor, urban outdoor space, which for people's physical and mental health is really invaluable. So yeah, and so urban forest gardens for me are a real great win, and create like transforming public spaces into these like both edible, biodiverse, and culturally alive oases is a great occupation. Um, so Barbara, next please.
So this is
Chris.
me, not that one, the one before. Yeah. So as Thomas has been saying, and as you're seeing, the different domains or the petals of the domains are, although they're separate and they're written separate and they're different colors, they're all interconnected. And one of the case studies I've got is about, or one of my passions is about applying permaculture at farm level. So broad acre, um, uh, level for, so yeah, farms and beyond the garden, if you like. And we've got in the UK some, places that have been around for 10, 15, 20 years even. Some of the best ones are here. This is Inkpot in Lincolnshire, Ragman's Lane in Gloucestershire, and up in Scotland, a community garden and farm up there. Um, and there's already lots of people that are doing this, that are involved, and using the ethics, using the ecological principles, and designing their farms to be diverse, yeah, and resilient systems. Basically, it's creating jobs, it's creating good food, and at the same time, it's good for wildlife. So it's just a win-win situation. In particular, I wanted to focus on a place. A next one, Barbara, please, in North Wales, which is called Henbant. And they've been going for 15, can't do my maths, 13 years now, and a beautiful site, um, of 20 acres, 20 hectares, 34 acres, and they're also using other farmers' land as well, so they're sharecropping in effect, and this is illustrating principles of diversity. So they've got diverse um, livelihoods from the farm, diverse activities going on. They've got trees involved, so perennials and low input systems, but they've also got arable and livestock. They are producing 80 boxes of into a local veg box scheme, so they're basically holding 80 families with their vegetable output from the gardens there. They've got woodland. They've got they run training courses. They do glamping for people as well, and consultancy. So multiple incomes as well from multiple land use. The land is getting better and better. The livestock are healthy. It's all organic, and they're supporting the local community. So these are the principles that they're using, and it's done by design, and a lot of hard work as well. It has to be said. And so the next one. The next one is, um, although it's connected with the land, it's about organizational design. So this is the project that I'm involved with in Nepal, called the Himalayan Permaculture Center. And yes, we work with farmers. Yes, we work with land design and agroecology and organic food growing and all of that sort of thing. But the example here is about organizational structure and how we can use permaculture principles to design our our organizations, our institutions as well. So the next one, Barbara, thanks. Um, and which is, wow, that's like a lot of lines and colors and stuff. It's all showing about connection, and the application of permaculture principles. So on the far left, you've got the overall objective, or the mission, is what we aim to do, is improve livelihoods and enable people to self-develop and then spread the technologies to other people as well. And then we've got more specific objectives about food security, about health, about education, livelihoods, and group work, how people can organize themselves as well. So then under the activities, we've got all the different things that they do. And they contribute to what are called the outcomes. So saving time, better diet, clean and hygienic villages, natural resources are conserved and improved. So that's the nature connection bit. But at the same time, farms are more productive and diversified. And as well, for particularly marginalized groups, then we use literacy, what we call practical literacy as well, so people can learn to read and write. These are areas where female literacy is around about 20 to 25%. Male literacy might be up to 50 to 60%. So we take it for granted the skill of reading and writing in the West. But actually there are an awful lot of people that don't yet have those skills. And so we enable that using the technologies that we're working with. So in this way, each outcome or each objective that we have is actually supported by many different activities that contribute towards the food security or the health improvement, etc. And at the same time, so that's kind of risk management, if you like. So there are many ways of achieving the outcomes that you want. And in the same way, any of the activities are also multifunctional. So they're good for health, they're good for diet, they're good for well-being, they're good for the soil, and they're good for local natural biodiversity as well. Carbon, if you want to go into carbon, they're all good for carbon storage and as well. So in that way, the project is structured using those principles as well. So you can apply, permaculture in many different ways in many different areas. That's the next one then, Barbara.
Yes, the next one. Yeah, this is an example of a permaculture business of friends of us. Here you write Slaithwaite, and someone told me that you pronounce it as slow it or something. Yeah, leave it up to the British to come up with a very creative pronunciation.
Oh,
Okay, that's off topic.
Slow it.
Slow it. Okay. Yes, so this handmade bakery brings beautiful and nutritious artisan bread to the local community. And they thought, well, there is community supported agriculture. Why not do a community supported bakery? And it's people care because they use organic local flour. They use organic millers. They have a zero waste subscription model. They use existing assets like the pizza oven in the local Italian restaurant during the day when the restaurant isn't working. And the collection points are all in walking distance, and they've been using green energy. And the people care ethic is in the form of meaningful livelihood for this couple, but also their workers. They started this long time ago, and they have moved on. But the bakery is still running by other people because it's a cooperative of workers, and it's offering meaningful work within the community, and it's they help people to reskill and to bring a traditional craft back in the culture. And they could also share the care for their children, and they have happy, healthy customers. So that a lot of people care. And the fair share part of the bakery was the biggest part. It grew into a not-for-profit workers cooperative, So people share work and also share the rewards. And they're teaching others to make healthy bread through their workshops. And they're teaching others to set up other community-supported bakeries through their course. And they're growing beneficial relations with other local businesses, like hiring this pizza oven during the day, and also the distribution of the bread in the local real ale pub. And they opened their first shop with the community-owned greengrocers. So, yeah, a great example of permaculture thinking in a business. The Mother Nature Project is a social permaculture example. Mothers from all over Europe working together to create a movement of sisterhood and bringing awareness to the personal transformation journey of mothers. It is Earth Care because it has set up local circles, so low traveling. And it's encouraging mothers to care for the environment and to connect to nature. And the people care part is also connecting to self and nature. And the Mother Nature circles are local groups of mothers sharing about their journeys, and also online circles. So there's a whole online community to connect and learn all these mothers. And the fair share ethic is in the peer-to-peer support, empowering other women and training mothers as natural leaders. So yeah, to conclude with this last example, permaculture thinking is really possible on all levels. We saw a farm or a few farms, a home, an organization, a neighborhood, a business, social permaculture, and now this is personal permaculture because I designed my wardrobe. It's Earth Care because I assembled a wardrobe that fits well, brings happiness, and therefore creates less waste. And with a good set of clothes, it's likely that I will take good care of them and repair them. And they're made of natural fibers, or I choose natural fibers, so I can easily repair it myself. Like wool and silk can be felted, and cotton can be mended. And if my clothes do become waste and I cannot give them away because they have holes or stains, then they will not weigh so heavy on my footprint because, the natural fibers make that I can decompose it. And in the past, I've successfully used my old clothes as weed suppressors in the garden instead of cardboard or under the cardboard. And this wardrobe is people care because I made a personal permaculture design for what I wear that brings more permaculture into my life. So it's an act of self-care, and it also saves a good amount of energy when my wardrobe is simplified and well organized. It also brings more happiness because everything fits and matches. And since skin is permeable, I better not wear artificial or heavily dyed fabrics. And it's an act of family care, especially for my teenage kids, when my clothes fit well and they don't have too many holes or stains, so they don't have to be too embarrassed when they're out with me. The fair share part, I want less items, better quality, that are locally or at least ethically resourced. Better to spend money for good quality at local businesses than to follow cheap fashion that needs constant updating. And the clothes that I need will be recycled, that I don't need will be recycled or given away or decomposed when they're at the end of their cycle. So that were our examples.
Right. So we talked about, what is permaculture. We've looked at what it's made of. It's about design. It's about ecological principles. it's about people. We've looked at some examples of how it's applied to land and farms, big land, little land. We've looked at how it's applied to communities and business and organizational. So as you can see, those petals that Thomas was talking about, each one of them has yeah, different ways of being expressed, or expressing permaculture, or using permaculture, or applying design to it. So that's right, basically the content that we wanted to share with you. And now we're in the last 20 minutes or so of the call. So we wanted to leave time for some questions, any questions that come up. And then we also wanted to spend a bit of time in looking at what are your intentions? What would you like to do with permaculture in the short term? And so, yeah, we can open the floor, open the call to any questions. We have one to start with. So let's start at the beginning, from Isabel, who asked about what books we can recommend and other resources for understanding more about permaculture design principles for organizations in particular. So not businesses per se, she says, but a community-focused non-profit organization. So, team, who has do you have any recommendations for that?
Well,
And meanwhile, other people can also keep raise their hand, or we've got is there a question part? I can't see it actually, but otherwise just put questions into the chat, is the easy way of doing it.
Yeah, I wanted to answer this question with the book that I use for really any project is Louis McNamara's book, People and Permaculture, because it explains her design web really well. And this design web is a framework to design anything, not only your land, but any project. And that minimalistic capsule wardrobe design is also made with that. So even something so simple you can design with the design web. So I'll put her book in the chat.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there are many more books to be written, and yeah, stories to be told about like how permaculture can be applied in many different ways. I mean, I've covered that ground a little bit in forest gardening and practice, like in particular relation to how urban forest gardens groups get together and develop those. And so I'm looking at organization models there. I can't off the top of my head think of a book that really kind of covers it like in comprehensive detail. And there is like in Bill Mollis's Permaculture Designer's Manual, there is a whole chapter devoted to it, chapter 14, which was quite groundbreaking at the time. But like it's worth looking at organizations like the Permaculture Association in the UK, who will very consciously have used permaculture design in developing their own processes. And I mean, Barbara, you talked about the Mother Nature Network already. I mean, that's been very much designed on a similar footing. Maybe you can say a bit more about that.
I didn't work on that design, sorry. And I was also reading the chat, so I was a bit distracted.
Okay. Yeah, I was talking about the Mother Nature Network as an example for, yeah, kind of a consciously designed like social network.
The work of Daniel Christian Wall comes to mind. So he's done a lot of work with organizational, that kind of level of of design, basically. I'm trying to find his references now, but I'll put those in. I'll look it up.
I'm just
Global
wondering,
Global
Chris, what
Eco Network. Yeah, sorry, Steve.
I'm just wondering, this question about design, can it be more specific? I'm just looking at the comment in the chat. It seems to be about more community design. If this question is more specific, we might be able to answer it easier. Because there's a lot of community enterprises around the world now, and there's a lot of tremendous work happening in lots of different places. If there was a specific need in that, we could answer it clearly.
That's a very good point, Steve. Yeah, being clear on what needs are, or being able to identify the needs, is very, very much part of a design, isn't it? So,
yeah. So Isabel, have you got any particular design in mind for?
Yeah, hi, thank you. I'm part of a community group. We work in with individuals who've come together to try and make changes within sort of media outlooks around environment and wildlife. So, like in terms of filmmaking and other forms of journalism, to try and change the way that this is approached with regards to some of the ecological and climate issues that we're facing. So trying to change the way that the sector is working with more variety of people from around the world, to give people able to tell their own stories from where they're around, as opposed to there's a lot of colonialism within media, trying to change the impact that is had by using, like, often a lot of content is made more for entertainment-based purposes, and it's trying to change the way that that can land with people, either having connected content with impact campaign, or having more ways of having that told on screen or through the media. And so this is a collective network of people from around the world, and we are trying to become a unincorporated association to try and give ourselves ability to fund projects around this. And so we're going to be writing a constitution for that. And it's just quite challenging because it doesn't fit a lot of hierarchical pre-existing models for the way that we run. We have very much, it's all voluntary, and we have some people taking on more certain roles, and so we're trying. I think just the permaculture design principles interested me in how we can use that to write our constitution as to how we can organize ourselves as a group.
That's sounds like
Isabel, Isabel.
Where in the world are you based, Isabel?
I'm based in the UK, but it's a global network.
Great. Well, I mean, I definitely recommend you getting in touch with the Permaculture Association, who I think are really kind of very keen to connect to people who want to tell the story, like our stories, in new ways, and telling new stories and so on. I think it'd be a great place to make connections there. But yeah.
The other
Sounds a
option,
lot like
the
the
other
work
option, Isabel.
Jed is doing as well, I guess.
I said the
Sorry,
other
Steve.
option, Isabel, is to call a conference on the subject and invite as many people in to answer your question, and just brainstorm that whole arena. There's a tremendous amount of activity going on in Stroud with a lot of those networks. So yeah, be a designer. Be a designer. Call a conference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Align yourself. So I was just saying, Thomas, in terms of group work and how groups function together, that's, I mean, I know yourself, but also Jed at Earthworm has got a lot of experience in that as well. Um, uh, she maybe
Yeah,
has some good references. Luckily, we are able to save this chat, and it is in our intention to, if we can't go as deep as you'd like into some of the questions, which I know we have time limits, we can also follow up with resources. So I'm thinking, of who's involved with this sort of thing, with community design and organizational design as well, and I know that what's going to happen is that in the middle hours of the night, I'll wake up and think, oh, I know someone like that would help. So this is all about staying in contact as well. Um,
one point of connection, another point of connection that is worth checking out is Permanent Publications and the Permaculture magazine. They have shared like a number of really inspiring stories about permaculture. They're well connected in the media world, and so I think they again would be worth having a chat with. But in terms of setting up organizations, yeah, Isabel or anybody kind of like that's one thing that I'm quite involved with. So I'd always be happy to have a chat about that at some point. Get in touch.
Amazing. Thank you all.
Mm. Yeah. Any other questions? Who else wants to dive in?
so there's a question about favorite books, as well. Um, where to start training up about permaculture water recycling systems.
Mm. Yeah, I mean that's something that is to a certain extent covered on a PDC with case studies and with principles, but there are specific some specific books around kind of like how to make an oasis with grey water is one that springs to mind, which is very much about designing in drier landscapes and using like water that has already been used to its maximum effect.
Mm. So, Louisa, where are you based, Louisa? Sorry, that was a question from Louisa.
Hi, it's Oliver and Louisa. We're based in Hamburg.
Okay, Hamburg. So in Britain, in the UK, we have biologic design, which is J. Abrahams, who actually designed one of the wastewater treatment system at Earthworm, where Thomas lives. So also in Herefordshire. Biologic design, again, it's okay. It's a website to
I'll put
find.
it in. I'll
And
put it in the chat.
have you got it there, Thomas?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
showed a bit of a picture in our slideshow.
okay.
It's really quite it's like simple but a genius. It's using the concept of swales, expanding it into ponds, and like sending the water through, and turning it from like what could potentially be pollution into an abundant resource.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Mm.
Just large and small scale both inspire me.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
it
to get my teeth
can be
stuck in.
on it can be for like a small home, but it's also built these systems for big festival sites and sawmills and farms and housing estates. So it can be scaled up to like any size, really.
And is this something that you've installed on your Earthworm property?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, yeah. And
Interesting.
it requires no maintenance. It requires no energy inputs once it's done. and it produces incredible biodiversity. So we had dragonflies landing in it as soon as it was made. There's frogs, newts, toads, and all sorts of things living in there.
Where can I find more information about that?
I've put the website into the chat there.
Biologic design.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Biologic design, yeah, that will give you that's Jay's website. So I think it's good maybe now to move on because we've got just a few minutes left, 10 minutes left or so, to think about what we're interested is what you're thinking about actually. What are you wanting to do? And some of you have already said in the chat what ideas you've got, but we can spend now a few minutes at the end talking about what our intentions or our next steps. And I'm going to kick that off with sharing what Mollison taught on the steps for your own participation. And he said these are things that you can do starting right now, and that everyone can do in some way or another. So the steps for own participation, and I kind of put them within the three ethics. So the first thing to do is to decrease your use of non-renewable resources. So that's fossil fuels and the like. So what can you do to reduce your carbon footprint in effect of using fossil fuels? So it might be about lift sharing, it might be about insulating your home, might be about using your bike more than your car, using public transport rather than private transport. Lots of different ways. Even if it's a little bit, if everyone does it, it's the way to the answer. And another activity that we can all do is align with like-minded people. And of course, in order to align with the like-minded people, you need to find them. So Steve was alluring to put it out there that what you want, what's your vision, or what are your needs, and you'll always find someone or individuals or groups of people that are thinking the same way, and often it's just about linking up with those people. So that's the people care ethic part of it. And the other thing is to involve yourself in the growing cycle. So Bill used to say, well, go home and garden. What we know is not everyone can do that or is particularly interested, or maybe they have no land, they have nothing but a window box, or maybe they don't even have a window box. So what can you do? And I say, well, at least buy smart, buy local, buy organic where you can. um, you know, uh, 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 there are ways in which you can bring ethics into your diet, into how you eat, into what you eat. And so to involve yourself in the growing cycle in what way you can. Maybe it's supporting a community supported vegetable box scheme. So in these ways there's always something that we can do, and we can do it right now. We don't have to wait, we don't have to learn or get an accreditation for it or take a loan for it. We can do the things right now that will collectively make a difference. And certainly emotionally for ourselves, they can be very empowering as well. So I'm going to stop that share because that was what I wanted to talk about there. In terms of looking deeper at your own intentions, again, this is something that a little bits of information that we wanted to harvest. So again, put into the chat. I guess we're used to using the chat now. Oh no, we're going to use a whiteboard. Hey, Barbara, take us through the whiteboard then. So what are your next steps? What do you intend to do to take your permaculture journey forward in that sense? So
Yeah. So what you can do is click here on the left on a sticky note,
yeah,
drag it into the board, and give us your next step.
Visit active permaculture places. That's a great one. Go and see, go and experience, link up, observe. So I was saying permaculture is 75% observation, and the rest of it is just deciding what to do. Connect with a CSA farmer. Connect with your food system.
Collaborate with like-minded people and groups. Yeah, that's always many minds are better than one, and you never know what emerges.
Yeah. The power of demonstration and observation of demonstration as well is massive. It's one of our key underlying strategy in Nepal is creating demonstration sites that farmers can go and visit and see.
Yeah, and grow edible plants on your balcony and create a community garden. Yeah, if you don't have a garden yourself, you can create a community garden or squat a park.
I distilled what Mollison said about the three things into just two things. So one is reduce harm, and one is connect with nature. And I think if you left everything else out and just focused on that, it would make a big difference. So many things will come from that, but before looking at repair and regeneration, we need to stop our harmful practices. But that's partly involved with like fossil fuel use as well. So I think they're connected with the three steps that Mollison talked about. So a lot about going and seeing and experiencing and skilling up and growing. That's great. That's what we need.
Nearly 8 o'clock now. Just time check.
Time has flown. So I think we probably just need to wrap up now.
Oh,
Barbara,
where's your
Yes. Well, so in case you haven't done your permaculture design course yet, there is one starting, an online PDC starting on Saturday, the 15th, which is in 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks. And there you'll learn how to bring permaculture thinking into your life. And it's the full 72-hour PDC. Every other Saturday morning, so it skips a week. And you'll receive your certificate from the Permaculture Association Britain for it. And besides Chris and Thomas and me, there are also guest speakers like Luby McNamara and Maura Gamble and many others. And it's an interactive course. We will practice a bit more with all the whiteboards and the presentation, so it will go super smoothly. And you can bring all your knowledge together in a design project. And more. You can find the details on the Applewood website. Did I miss something important, Chris?
I think I just wanted to say people can, we're a small enough group here to say just stay in touch. Email if you've got any any questions, thing about a session or a workshop or a time like this is that it can trigger things days in advance or weeks in advance. So if you think, oh, what was that thing that I wanted to find out more about? Just get in touch. It can be as simple as that. So I've
Yes.
shared my email in there, but you can also get in contact direct with Applewood. That will come to myself or Luby as well.
Okay.
Otherwise,
Yeah, otherwise, thank you all for your attention and your time. And yeah, we hope to see you in real life on one of our courses or in some other occasion. So, yeah,
volunteer week could be.
Great.
Brilliant. So
To finish
good night,
off,
good
maybe
morning,
if you can,
good afternoon.
unmute yourself and put this camera on, and let's wave goodbye. Thank you, everybody.
okay. Thanks, everyone. Oh,
Thank you
nice
so
to see
much.
the
Good night,
faces.
good
Yeah.
morning to some.
Yeah,
Nice to see you all. Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you for
Have a good
joining.
evening or a good morning, depending on where you are.
Good evening.
Bye-bye.
Lovely. Bye. Great to see you again, Steve.
I'll see you Thursday, Steve.
Mm.
Brilliant.
Mm.
So, meanwhile, see you guys, Barbara and Thomas in the morning.
Yes, indeed.
Yes.
Next